Welcome to something short and sweet in the Parsha this week, Parshas Beha'aloscha. In the middle of a very exciting, event-filled Parsha, the Torah, Perek Tes, Psukim Yud Zayin through Chaf Gimel, describes the journey of Klal Yisrael. And over again, the Torah tells us that the cloud would raise up, the Jewish people would begin to journey, the clouds would stop, the Jewish people would stop. Short encampments, long encampments, constantly with the refrain, Al Pi Hashem Yachanu. By the mouth of God, they camped. Al Pi Hashem Yisau. It was by the direction of God that they traveled over and over and over again. What is the point? Could have used one verse to tell us the story. Ramban and Sforno say that this is L'saper Zuchusan Shel Yisrael, to speak of the great merit of Klal Yisrael. Alechdem acharav bamidbar, they followed God in the desert. Explains these Rishonim. It wasn't easy, and it wasn't easy to do it the way they did it, with the implicit faith that they have. There were times they got to an encampment. It was a barren. They set up camp. They were not looking for greener pastures. There were times they came to an encampment. It was a beautiful area. It was where anyone would have wanted to live. Al Pi Hashem Yachanu. They set up camp because God said to set up camp there, not because it was in their best interests. There were times they came to an encampment, and before they can even rest their weary bodies, all of a sudden the cloud went up. They had to travel again. Al Pi Hashem Yachanu, Al Pi Hashem Yisau. Whatever they found and however it happened, they did it Al Pi Hashem. They're being praised for their implicit faith and trust in Hashem. Reb Chaim Shmulev has pointed out that you find this within the understanding of a halacha. We know that there are 39 prohibited categories of work, of malacha on Shabbos. One of them is soser. One of them is destruction, to knock down a building. Rava, the Gemara Shabbos, asks, 1 minute, where is this learned from? Isn't this learned from the Mishkan? After all the 39 prohibited actions are learned from actions which were significant in the Mishkan, in the tabernacle. Now, we know that the malacha of demolition, of soser, is only if it's almanas livnos b'makomo. The halacha is, if you break down a structure and you have no need to build in that particular place, you just want to break down the structure, that's not a Torah violation. You have not violated that malacha. It's only when you want to build in place, that very same place, you're breaking it down in order to build, soser, almanas livnos, so then you violated the halacha. So asks Rava, 1 minute, what did they do in the Mishkan? When they had that Mishkan in the desert, when they broke down the Mishkan, they didn't break it down in order to build it in its place. They broke it down in order to build it somewhere else. So how can you learn the malacha, the prohibition of soser, which is dafka, which is specifically almanas livnos? How can you learn that from the Mishkan? The Mishnah is not almanas livnos b'makomo. The Gemara answers, Ula answers, it was because it was Al Pi Hashem Yachanu, Al Pi Hashem Yisau. It was because it was by the direction of God they camped, and it was by the direction of God that they traveled. Now, how is that? So what? It was by the direction of God. They still were building in a different place. So Rabbi Shmulevitz, he explained it so beautifully. He said, if you take a mother takes a child in her arms, and she travels from, say, New Jersey to New York. And after the child arrives in New York, you ask the child, where are you? The child will say, what do you mean, where am I? I'm in my mother's arms. The child's not going to know from New Jersey and from New York. He knows he's in his mother's arms. That's what Ula is answering. Al pi Hashem yachanu, v'al pi Hashem yisau. Klal Yisrael traveled all over the Midbar. Sometimes it was very inconvenient. Sometimes the area was very inhospitable. It didn't make a difference to them. And that's what the Torah is lauding with these 7 verses. Because they were traveling in the embrace of Hashem. You know, so often when we learn these parshios, the Jews in the desert, and we emphasize the 10 trials, the 10 times that Klal Yisrael sinned against God. There were 10 in 40 years, 10 of those great tests of God. But otherwise, Klal Yisrael had a beautiful existence. And what an incredible lesson. It's been the lesson for Klal Yisrael throughout the generations, because we have gone from country to country. We've been exiled from continent to continent. But our ancestors always was Al pi Hashem yachanu, Al pi Hashem yisau. We always were traveling with God. Thank you so much for listening. Have a great Shabbos.